Right. Let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to completely transform how you handle incident postmortems. Because look, too often, these just turn into useless, forgotten documents. They get filed away the second everyone stops scrambling to fix a major issue. But today, we are going to turn them into incredibly powerful tools for system resilience, tools that actually prevent the next big outage.
Now, take a look at this number. What's really wild here is that an empirical study of 26 major fintech incidents found that a staggering 80%, yes, 80%, stemmed from internal changes. We're talking about standard deployments or config updates that just weren't tested or controlled properly. So basically, we are literally inflicting the vast majority of our outages upon ourselves.
Which brings us to a really painful question. Why do we keep having the exact same outages? I mean, despite spending hours scrambling during an incident response and then dutifully writing up our lessons learned, these failures just keep repeating in this vicious cycle. The underlying vulnerabilities stay put, and leadership gets this false sense of security just because a nice, neat document was filed away in some digital drawer. Well, today we are breaking out of that cycle for good. Here's our agenda for this explainer. 1. Why most postmortems fail. 2. Anatomy of a useful postmortem. 3. Blameless root cause analysis. 4. Creating smart action items. And 5. A walkthrough of a payment service outage.
All right, let's get right into Section 1, why most postmortems fail.
Honestly, the majority of postmortem programs are essentially just performance theater. We go through the motions and usually land on a really bad approach, like concluding that Susan deployed bad code and just telling her to be more careful next time. Look, hindsight and blame creates a super comfortable story that satisfies our human need for closure, right? But it completely stops us from analyzing the much deeper, systemic issues, like, say, a missing CI/CD governance policy that allowed that bad code to ship in the first place.
Moving on to Section 2, the anatomy of a useful postmortem. So to actually break this cycle of failure, elite teams rely on a professional, totally repeatable template in tools like Confluence or Google Docs for literally every major incident. Your template absolutely has to include these core sections: title and severity, impact summary, timeline of events, root cause analysis, contributing factors, and corrective action items. Having this structure ensures that every single review captures the exact same data, and that is absolutely crucial so you can actually spot patterns over multiple quarters. Now, a super crucial point here. Your impact summary must be based on hard, measurable data. Don't just write down, "things were slow." That doesn't help anyone. You need to quantify the exact number of users affected, the precise duration of the outage, and the estimated revenue lost. We really have to move the conversation away from just vibes and get down to cold, hard facts if we want to truly understand the stakes and prioritize what needs fixing. That brings us to Section 3, blameless root cause analysis. Okay, for root cause analysis to actually be effective, it must be completely 100% blameless. If people are terrified of being fired, they're just going to hide the truth. I absolutely love this quote from Dave Zwieback. He says, "Human error is a symptom, never the cause of deeper trouble in the system." This mindset actually originated in aviation and healthcare, where mistakes can literally be fatal. It's a great reminder that you can't fix people, but you absolutely can fix the systems, the safeguards, and the processes that allowed their inevitable human mistakes to reach production in the first place. Let's actually apply this to a real scenario. Imagine you're dealing with a massive 45-minute payment service outage, and it was triggered by an on-call engineer who deployed a misconfigured rate limit. We're going to use the classic 5 whys technique here to dig way down past the surface symptoms. So 1, why did the outage happen? Well, the symptom is the payment database locked up. 2, why? Because there were way too many writes. 3, why? We pushed a change and suddenly faced unexpected scale. 4, why? Well, we had no load testing for that specific change. And 5, why? Because there's literally no systemic load testing governance in our CI/CD pipeline. Do you see what just happened there? We started at a really superficial database lock and descended all the way down to a major systemic pipeline gap. This framework is a total game changer for your response. A bad RCA stops at human error, like, oh, the engineer typed the wrong limit. But a good RCA finds the systemic gap. The deployment pipeline lacked automated validation to catch that typo. So instead of just telling an engineer to be more careful, which, let's face it, never works, we've uncovered a real systemic vulnerability that we can actually fix. Now, no one can ever make that exact same mistake again.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, creating smart action items.
Finding the root cause is totally useless if we don't actually fix it, right? Every single finding that matters must become a smart task. That means it needs to be specific, measurable, assignable to one named owner, relevant, and time-bound. And listen closely to this part. If an action item is assigned to a whole team, like the back-end team, instead of one specific named individual, it simply will not get done. Diffusion of responsibility literally kills progress.
Let me show you the difference. A bad action item is super vague, something like, investigate better monitoring for the payment service. Okay, but who does it? When is it due? We have no idea. Now, a good action item fixes this instantly. Sarah will add a learning for greater than 1% payment errors by Friday. Boom. See that? It has an explicit owner, a super tight deadline, and a measurable outcome that directly decreases the blast radius of future outages.
All right, Section 5, walkthrough of a payment service outage.
Let's bring this whole shebang together and walk through that 45-minute payment outage. We always start by reconstructing a strict chronological timeline using highly precise timestamps from our chat logs and our monitoring tools. So at 15:45, a spike in 500 errors is detected. At 15:52, the incident commander declares a SEV1. By 16:15, the rate limit config is reverted. And at 16:30, we hit 100% traffic recovery. Doing it this way entirely removes guesswork and storytelling from the review. It is just the facts. Next up, we have to document the contributing factors. Modern SREs know that failures almost always arise from multiple interacting conditions. So for example, maybe the on-call engineer had to build their context completely from scratch because the runbook was outdated, and that severely delayed our recovery time. Or perhaps the alerting was just incomplete. Those are massive contributing factors that absolutely need to be documented right alongside the root cause.
Finally, and honestly, this is the real secret sauce here, we integrate these smart action items directly into our tracking system, like Jira. We create a trackable board where managers can monitor progress right alongside regular feature work. So we can see Sarah owns the automated load test gate, David owns the runbook update, and they both have crystal clear deadlines and statuses. This is how you ensure these crucial fixes don't just sit there gathering dust in a forgotten document.
Because here is the brutal truth of it all. If your team's action item completion rate drops below 50%, it's a massive, glaring red flag. It means your postmortems are completely failing to drive actual change. Elite engineering organizations track this closure rate just as seriously as they track their uptime or their velocity. So as you go back to your teams and implement these templates and tracking systems, I want you to ask yourself this one vital question. Is your team actually learning, or are you just documenting your failures? Building a true culture of continuous improvement means systematically fixing the vulnerabilities, not just writing neat little stories about them. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.